Behind the screens of an unassuming online world lies a dark network known as 764, a satanic group within communities of thousands of online members exploiting the innocent and terrorizing the vulnerable. In this video, we uncover their chilling tactics and expose the truth about how 764 thrives on secrecy and fear. This is the story the internet doesn't want you to know.
Tonight, an urgent message from the feds about a dangerous group of online predators who are convincing kids to do self-destructive things. This warning comes a day after a Michigan man was sentenced. Authorities say he belonged to a shadow organization known as 764.
764, also known as the Com, is an online child extortion group targeting children aged from 8 to 17 with alleged philosophical ties to the Order of Nine Angels, which is a right-wing satanic terror network. The Order of Nine Angels, or the ONA, advocates for accelerationism, which is a range of revolutionary and reactionary ideas that call for capitalist growth, technological change, infrastructural sabotage, and other facets of social change to destroy existing systems and create radical transformations. It is perceived that these groups directly influence vulnerable people to carry out horrendous crimes. The ONA believes that human history can be divided into a series of aeons which contains a corresponding human civilization. They believe that current aeonic civilization is our current Western world, and also believe that the evolution of this society is threatened by Nazarene influence of the Judeo-Christian Islamic religions. The Order of Nine Angles seeks to combat standing political systems to establish a new militaristic social order, to which they call Imperium. It advocates a spiritual path in which people are required to break societal norms by isolating themselves, committing crimes, embracing violence, and ultimately carrying out acts of human sacrifice. Similar to 764, the ONA lacks any authority or structure. It operates as a deep web of associates known as the Collective. It is believed that the number of associates to the ONA are in the low thousands to this day. Before 764 was even created, there was a group called Cult that was created by a French boy named Rohan. Rohan described his group as, quote, dark and sadistic, where slaves would cut my name into their body willingly, following up this statement by saying, I am the leader and the founder of the cult. My ultimate goal is to create an endless supply of people to satisfy my cult, existing for that very reason. Caleb Merritt, one of Rohan's initial followers, went by various online aliases like E-Terrorist, O9A, and Evil. It is said that Caleb became quite proficient at grooming. The cult also live-streamed multiple teens committing. One was by hanging, and another swallowed pills in a bathtub. Then, they would coerce more of their victims into streaming the killing of their pets.
She got sucked up into this cult where she was gone, and somebody else was, that she was infatuated with, was pulling the strings.
According to many sources, 764 was created back in 2021 by a 15-year-old boy named Bradley Cadenhead. According to Bradley, he created 764 after his town's zip code in Stephenville, Texas. Bradley was always fascinated by remnants of online content depicting murder and torture. Eventually, Bradley and a friend he met through Minecraft would decide to start a group known as 764, taking inspiration from another Discord community known as Cult, which forced children to perform lewd acts on camera, later using these same recordings for extortion. Unlike Cult, 764 didn't only leverage the extortion of minors, but also animal torture, incest, self-harm, and bestiality. It is also known that 764 would prey on kids with mental health problems by regularly encouraging the victims to commit mass shootings or to take their own life, all on camera. According to a victim, quote, they want to make you suffer, and for you to take your own life. They really are very sadistic people. New members of 764 would show their allegiance by engaging in animal abuse and, in some cases, being forced to kill personal pets or other animals. The key dimensions to 764 is to groom victims to share intimate images and videos, thus creating lore books, which encompass all of this explicit content to be shared with the victim's friends, family, or anyone they know if they don't comply. Still to this day, many subverts of 764 still exist, creating various offshoots like 676, Cult, Court Kaskar, Harm Nation, Leak Society, Hell, and many more, which are ultimately referenced within these deranged online groups as the comm, or another word for community. 764 would recruit multiple members and future victims by finding online communities interested in obscene material, such as websites dedicated to gore or the celebration of mass shootings and terrorism. A common ground for 764 to operate is actually within video games such as Minecraft or Roblox, where these criminals could remain anonymous behind their characters. After the predator establishes a relationship with the victim, they are then invited to join private spaces such as Discord servers due to the fact that you can create different text channels and use voice or video chat, making Discord the most attractive platform for groups like 764. In 2021, a 22-year-old member of cult, Caleb Christopher Merritt, kidnapped and raped a 12-year-old girl after driving 20 hours from Texas to Virginia, to where she said the unspeakable happened multiple times.
A Texas man is headed to trial for multiple felonies after abducting a 12-year-old girl from Henry County earlier this year. 10 News reporter Sydney Jackstimer is live outside of the courthouse this evening. So Sydney, what did you learn during today's preliminary hearing?
Yeah, well, 21-year-old Caleb Merritt is charged with solicitation of a child abduction, and all three of those felonies will be going to trial, as the Commonwealth did hold up their probable cause today during the preliminary hearing. Now, during the preliminary hearing, the Commonwealth called 6 witnesses to the stand, one of which was the victim in this case, the 12-year-old girl, and the victim's great-grandmother. Now, during testimony, photos which were found on the victim's phone were showed in court, which showed nude photos of both the defendant and the victim. Now, the victim spoke and testified, saying she chose to get into Merritt's car on her own, which had the defense trying to strike out abduction because she was not taken with force, but the Commonwealth argued there was lots of deception within the conversations between Merritt and the victim. Another piece of new information that we found out today during the preliminary hearing was the defense mentioned that Merritt does suffer from Asperger's, which is why he said during an interview that his brain works differently. Also, during testimonies, Merritt's interview was read by police, which he said, quote, "I did not see it as kidnapping her. I saw it as we were running away together." Now, again, the Commonwealth did prove probable cause of all 3 felonies, so this will be going to trial. We're not sure of that date, but stay with 10 News on air and online as we continue to follow this case closely.
A chilling but true analysis of this case showcases how the young girl was manipulated into running away with Caleb, even being tricked into thinking they were in love. A day later, an Amber Alert was issued by police, helping find the 12-year-old girl and arresting Caleb Merritt, who was later convicted of several charges and sentenced to 350 years in prison. In 2022, a 22-year-old from Queens, New York named Angel Almeida was arrested for his cooperation within the network, while also possessing a firearm and being a felon prior. Police don't go into a lot of depth, other than saying that they found multiple social media accounts with activity of child exploitation and showing the ownership of firearms. And when police searched his house, a bloody piece of paper with a sketch of the Zodiac Killer, along with runic symbols and other memorabilia of the Order of 9 Angles, was found. When arrested, Almeida would face a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison, which could end up to life in prison. Later that year, a 17-year-old member named Nino Luciano, also known as Tobbs, live-streamed himself beating up an 82-year-old man in an attempt to prove himself to 764. 2 weeks later, he would strike again, this time fatally stabbing a 74-year-old woman on livestream. Luciano would take these recordings of the livestream and post them to the 764 Discord server before he was ultimately sentenced to 14 years in prison in 2023. He told police he was intent on joining an organization, and this quote-unquote act of courage was for his initiation, saying, quote, "I feel like God. I can decide who lives and who dies." He was also seen to have different tattoos identifying hate symbols like a swastika, 764, and necro written on his forearm at the time of his arrest. In December of 2023, a grand jury indicted an 18-year-old Kalana Limkin, also known as Vor, on several counts of possessing CP. Before his arrest in 2023, Limkin posted the following on Telegram, quote, "Just a fair notice. if you were hoping the cops would come busting through my door, or I'd leave, or I'd run away, some shit like that, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that will never happen. The cops will not come busting through my door because they don't know where my door is located. See, because cops never did come to my house, no feds talked to me, and none of my electronics got seized, as you should know by now. In the indictment, the FBI mentions his link to the extremist group Order of 9 Angles. Court documents revealed that one of Limkin's victims told FBI agents that Limkin shared his screen and showed CP of a 5-year-old girl being in order to groom his victims and desensitize them to it. Now, let's go back to Bradley Cadenhead, the one who allegedly created 764, naming this group after his hometown zip code. Bradley, who would go online as the alias Felix, would go into Discord servers posting shocking images, urging other users to join him in other Discord servers, while bullying anyone who reacted to him with disgust. But the police ended up showing up to Bradley's door with a warrant on August 25th in 2021. Later in March 2023, Bradley pleaded guilty to his charges and was sentenced to 80 years in prison. You see, even though the police caught the alleged person who created 764, it wouldn't stop other groups from splintering off from the same ideologies of 764 into many different webs of online groups within the common goal of taking advantage of children in the most grotesque ways. And even worse, it's still going on today. Just 12 hours ago, I read an article that yet another teenager was arrested with ties to 764. His name is Cameron Finnegan, and he pleaded guilty to encouraging, possessing a terrorism manual, and indecent images of a child.
The only thing you're concerned about is if she went through with it and you got caught.
Callous and indifferent, here being questioned by police.
Not about whether she was dead or not.
I don't think about stuff in that moment.
He called himself Acid online in graffiti. A violent young man, he said he wanted to kill a homeless person, even picked out a target, boasted about children. Arrested after a tip-off, police feared he had a gun. As officers went in, he was live on this group chat.
They asked for a search. He got fed.
The man behind the username, 19-year-old Cameron Finnegan from Horsham in West Sussex. Finnegan pleaded guilty to 5 charges, including possession of child images, assisting, and having a guide on how to carry out a mass casualty attack using a lorry. He was part of this group, 764, online extremists. Their videos, racist, violent, rejecting society, targeting children. At least 4 British members have been arrested or convicted.
So this should be taken very seriously around 764. The threat that they pose, not just within the United Kingdom, but globally, is immense.
This group seeks to do unspeakable harm to children.
In the US, there have been urgent alerts.
We have a disturbing warning for parents tonight.
Shooting practice for investigator Becca Spinks. She's looked deeply into the group.
It's horrific, nightmare-inducing stuff.
And has been threatened by them. Here, Cameron Finnegan says, "I'll you in front of your family." She knows just how shocking 764 can be.
It's really trying to coerce and persuade young, vulnerable people to self-harm, self-mutilate, take a razor blade and carve their abuser's name into their body on video.
That's what happened to a 15-year-old in Australia, tricked into sending explicit images, then forced to cut herself.
They'd been making threats to her. Some of them had been trying to get her to kill herself. It was horrible. They sent manuals to her. It's like some power thing within the group of, look what I've managed to get this person to do. The same way they get them to mutilate themselves. More and more, deeper, worse. She's covered in scars.
They even ordered her to kill a family pet.
Police!
She refused, so they sent the police to the house, claiming her father had a gun.
Keep your hands up, come here.
It was terrifying.
764 rejects society, embraces Satanism, hates women and girls. Cameron Finnegan, an enthusiastic member, a new breed of extremists.
Ultimately, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison for his crimes. In today's new age of technology, it is extremely important to keep kids safe when they go online, especially after understanding that predators flock to the very games and servers where kids spend the most time. And unfortunately, when members of one group start getting caught, they create other groups, furthering the problem. To keep our kids safe, it's important that parents are monitoring the games and online spaces that your child is engaging in. In many of these instances, predators use manipulation tactics to persuade the victim into thinking there's nothing wrong going on, which in turn can make it more difficult as a parent, guardian, or even an older sibling to notice that there is something disturbing going on behind the scenes of your young ones online. Unfortunately, this problem seems to only keep getting worse with more and more arrests that have ties to 764 and more copycats springing up in the process. It's speculated that there are still 16,000 plus accounts that are still operating within the comm on an international scale.